You ever say something so weird in public that you wish the earth would swallow you whole? Yeah, try yelling, "Wombat poop is cube-shaped" in the middle of history class. I wasn't trying to be funny. I wasn't even thinking about wombats. My mouth just opened on its own, and that was only the beginning. They say knowledge is power. But what if knowing too much opens a door that should have stayed shut? Welcome to Narrative Strokes. Today I'm telling you my story that starts with laughter and ends with something far more ancient. I first noticed it in class. Mr. Halpern, our history teacher, was in the middle of his lecture on World War I when my mouth opened on its own. "Did you know that wombat poop is cube-shaped?" The entire class turned to look at me. My face went hot, my pulse hammering. Mr. Halpern's eyebrows knitted together, and he tapped his desk with a ruler. "Miss Taylor, would you care to repeat that?" I clamped my lips shut. What the hell? Where had that even come from? I didn't mean to say that," I stammered. The class snickered. Someone whispered, "Wombats?" Mr. Halpern sighed and turned back to the board, but my heart wouldn't settle. That wasn't normal. I hadn't been thinking about wombats. I barely even knew what they were. It had always been my thing to make people laugh. Humor was my way of staying on everyone's good side. A defense mechanism, I guess. I cracked jokes and blurted out random facts all the time. But that didn't make this any less terrifying. But I brushed it off, telling myself it was just a funny slip-up. I'd probably had too much caffeine or something. I told myself it was a fluke, until it happened again and again. At dinner, Mom asked how my day was, and instead of answering, I blurted, "Octopuses have 3 hearts." Mom stared at me, blinking. "Okay, Taylor," I quickly flashed a grin, hoping she wouldn't think too much about it. "Did you know that?" I added casually, as if it was just another random fact. "It's pretty cool, right?" Mom chuckled, though she still looked confused. "You're weird, but I love you." At the store, the cashier handed me a receipt, and my mouth said, "Sharks existed before trees." I wanted to disappear. The cashier's puzzled look was enough to make my stomach churn. I just laughed it off. "It's a good thing I'm good at random trivia, huh?" She raised an eyebrow but said nothing. As soon as I walked out, I sighed in relief. Every time it happened, I had no control. It was like some rogue part of my brain had hijacked my voice. By the 3rd day, I knew something was seriously wrong. My teachers were getting annoyed, my friends were concerned, and I was one embarrassing moment away from locking myself in my room forever. Then, during gym class, it got worse. Coach Reynolds blew the whistle, signaling the start of dodgeball. I barely dodged the first throw when my mouth betrayed me again. The human body contains about 37.2 trillion cells. The ball hit me square in the face. I flew backward, seeing stars as laughter exploded around me. My ears rang, my vision blurred, but worst of all, I heard a whisper, faint, distant, and curling through my mind like smoke. "You are speaking the truth," I gasped, scrambling up. No one else seemed to hear it. My breath came quick and shallow. I wasn't just saying random facts. Someone was making me say them. I had to find out why. That night, I locked myself in my room and started researching. Was this some kind of rare disorder? A psychological condition? nothing matched. I wasn't just blurting random thoughts, I was saying real, factual statements. The more I dug, the more I noticed a pattern. The facts weren't just weird, they were about things older than time. Prehistoric creatures, ancient artifacts, forgotten knowledge. Then I noticed something chilling. The day before this started, I had checked out a book from the library, Whispers of the Forgotten, a dusty leather-bound tome that I'd grabbed on impulse. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. It was wedged awkwardly between two thick encyclopedias in the back corner of the reference section. No barcode, no category sticker. Something about it had just drawn me in. I remembered flipping through it that evening while joking around with Mia over text. She thought it was another one of my weird humor obsessions. Ancient creepy books, lol. So on brand for you, she wrote. But I hadn't even read it fully. I'd skimmed through a few dusty pages, and nothing had made sense. But now, it felt important, urgent, like the trigger for everything. I went back to the book. My hands trembled as I flipped it open. The first page was blank. So was the second, and the third. Then, deep in the middle of the book, there was one sentence, one chilling line scrawled in jagged ink. The truth must be spoken. A shiver ran down my spine. I slammed the book shut. The moment I did, my mouth moved again. There is something buried beneath the old church on 5th Street. I froze. That wasn't just a weird fact. That was specific. That was a message. Something deep inside me whispered that I had to go. That the only way to stop this was to find whatever was beneath that church. I barely slept. The whispering voice haunted my dreams, growing stronger. You are the vessel. You must speak the truth. By morning, I knew there was no choice. I had to go. That day at school, things escalated badly. It was my turn to present a project in English class. I stood up, notes trembling in my hands, and opened my mouth to begin. Instead, I blurted, "There is a buried chamber beneath our town, untouched for centuries." Silence. My classmates stared at me. My teacher frowned. "Taylor, is that part of your presentation?" she asked. My throat seized. My chest tightened. My lips parted again, and against my will. I shouted, "It must be opened!" The projector behind me flickered and died. The lights buzzed and dimmed for a second before stabilizing. A few students gasped. I ran out of the room. In the hallway, my hands shook as I texted my best friend Mia. "Something is really wrong with me. I need your help." Mia met me behind the school. "Taylor, what's happening? You're scaring me." "I don't know. It's like something is making me say things, important things, old things, and I think..." I swallowed. "I think I have to go to that church tonight. I have to see what's buried there. That could be the only way I can make this stop." Mia hesitated, then nodded. "But you're not going alone. I'm coming with you." The next day, Mia and I met up after school. We sat in the park, surrounded by trees and the fading light of the evening. I told her everything about the book, about how it felt like it was calling me, how the truth was seeping into me like poison. I shared the line I'd found in it. The truth must be spoken. Mia looked skeptical at first, but as I explained how I'd started saying strange facts, Facts that didn't seem random but intentional. Her eyes widened in realization. "You think the book's affecting you?" she asked quietly. I nodded. "It's like it wants me to speak, to release some forgotten truth, and I think that truth is hidden beneath the church." Mia shuddered. "You really think something's buried there?" I shrugged. "I don't know, but I have to find out. I have no choice anymore." We sat in silence for a moment, each of us lost in thought. Then Mia finally spoke. "Okay, we need to go back to the library. Maybe there's more to the book than just the first few pages. Maybe there's something we missed." That evening, Mia and I slipped into the library after hours, determined to uncover more. The book felt heavier in my hands as we flipped through it again. More strange words appeared, written under moonlight or when touched a certain way. Each fact I blurted was a clue, and with each clue, the pressure to speak grew heavier. I couldn't stop it. It didn't make complete sense. But one thing was sure, it all pointed towards the church. We had to go there to hopefully finish this. That night, we snuck out and biked to the abandoned church. The air was thick with dust, and the windows were cracked, letting the moonlight filter through in slivers. I felt the weight of the place, the pull of something ancient beneath the ground. "It's here," I whispered to Mia. "It's all here." She gave me a nervous glance. "I don't know about this, Taylor. It feels wrong and dangerous." But she followed me inside anyway. Together, we made our way to the altar, and I could feel the presence beneath the stone. I led Mia to the stone altar, and with shaking hands, we pushed on it, slowly revealing a hidden stairway beneath. We descended into the damp darkness. My body moved on its own, compelled by the whispers growing louder with every step. The walls were covered with symbols, some familiar and others alien. A chill ran down my spine as we reached the center of the chamber. There, on an ancient stone slab, was the prison of the Forgotten One. My lips parted, and the words came, forcing themselves out of me. "This is the prison of the Forgotten One." The ground trembled beneath our feet, and the stone cracked open. A shape, vast, shifting, formless, rose from the slab, and my breath caught. It had no eyes, yet I could feel its gaze on me. It had no mouth, yet its voice whispered in my mind, "Finally, I am remembered." Mia screamed, "Oh my God! Taylor, what's happening?" I staggered back, but my body wouldn't obey. My eyes rolled back, my mouth opened again, and I spoke in a language that shouldn't exist. The words felt ancient, like they belonged to another time. The Forgotten One twisted, coiling into itself, its form shifting between shadows and glimpses of things no human should know. I could see glimpses of places where time didn't flow right, where the fabric of reality itself seemed to tear. Mia was shaking me, trying to bring me back to reality. I fought to regain control. Whatever this was shouldn't be released. It seemed dangerous, evil. I had to stop it before it could come back to full strength. My lips parted for one final fact, a counterseal, a way to lock it away again. That was my only hope. I focused every ounce of willpower I had. I forced the words out. "It must be forgotten again," I whispered, barely able to speak. Mia joined in, and both of us repeated over and over that one sentence. "It must be forgotten again." The ground shook. The stone cracked, and the forgotten one shrieked. Its form melted into the shadows, but the knowledge it brought remained in my mind. I could hear it still. You cannot unlearn the truth. And I passed out. When I woke up, Mia was shaking me. We were back outside, the church silent behind us. I didn't remember climbing out, but we were no longer underground. Somewhere beneath us, the stone slab was whole again, the chamber sealed, the voice gone. For now. But as we stood in the moonlight, I felt it stir faintly in the back of my mind. You cannot unlearn the truth. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, then comment down below and let me know what you think. I'll see you next time with another story. Until then, keep smiling and don't forget to like and subscribe.